Here we are in week 3, and Donald Trump has already accomplished so many amazing things, whether it's getting rid of the security clearances of those CIA liars, going after FBI officials who refuse to comply with his orders, and of course having Elon Musk go for government efficiency by uncovering all of the corruption and waste in our federal spending. And that, of course, is what I want to focus on today. But before we get to these clips, don't forget to like and comment on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
We have to remember that we're only 9 or 10 days into DOGE. So the fact that we're already at $1 billion a day is really incredible. And there has really been no discernible impact. There has been a lot of fissures of fake news and misinformation, but the real impacts have been negligible to none since they started making those cuts. I think that DOGE is a 3-layer onion. So layer 1 is the people. We have now given a pretty generous offer to folks. And I think Elon said it. It was like basically the maximum allowed by these contracts, but they tried to do a very good thing there. The second, as you guys just said, the second layer of the onion is going to be the infrastructure, all the buildings, all the physical plants that the government owns and operates that may be empty, that may be idle, and getting them back into private hands so that they can be repurposed. That's going to save a ton of money. But both of them will pale in comparison to the third layer of this onion, which is the IT and the services and the spend. And what I mean by that is when you read how the department is set up, at the center and nucleus of every single one of these DOGE teams is an engineer. And I think the reason is that they can get into these systems of record and start to trace where the money is going. And I think when you start to uncover through forensic analysis where these dollars are going and how it's spent, that's probably how you're going to close the gap from a trillion to, and I suspect, to be honest, it could be more than $2 trillion when it's all said and done. That is an enormous amount of waste, and it's unproductive. So I'm very excited for what happens over this next little while. Just the transparency is going to be incredible.
Guys, just for kicks, check this out, right? 2009, if we took 2019 spend, right, the year before COVID, and put it up against 2024 revenues, $500 billion surplus.
Wow.
Bingo.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Versus the $1.5 trillion deficit. So a $2 trillion swing on like a
in 4 years.
On a $4 trillion budget.
That's all waste.
Well, a lot of it's interest.
Cray.
Remember, we've got $1 trillion a year of interest payments now.
I mean, this is the thing.
So that, of course, is Chamath Palihapitiya on the All In podcast, a place where a bunch of billionaires get together and talk about the economy, economic conditions, etc. And they all basically came out and supported Donald Trump over Kamala Harris in the last election. But what they're talking about here, of course, is Elon Musk uncovering the massive amount of waste. I mean, when I first heard about the DOGE department, I was like, great idea. I wonder what they're going to find. Probably a few $100 billion here or there. But no, they're going after $1 billion a day in wasteful spending, and they're actually finding it and hopefully cutting it out, okay? And that little segment there about putting the 2019 budget against the 2024 revenue, where we would have a $500 billion surplus as opposed to a $2 trillion deficit, that is mind-blowing, right? The amount of spending we are doing in this country is completely insane, and it's all wasteful by the federal government. I mean, after all, look at what was just uncovered the other day by Elon Musk, right? The U.S. aid security leaders are on leave after they refused to turn over classified info to Musk's DOGE team. All right, so down here, let's get into this a little bit. David LeBrick, the top-ranking career U.S. Treasury Department official, will leave his post where he has been a top official for years. Elon Musk and the DOGE team are currently examining the Treasury payment system. LeBrick clashed with Musk over access to a sensitive system used to pay over $6 trillion a year in Social Security and Medicare payments, right? And according to Elon Musk, payment approval officers were told to always approve payments, even to fraudulent groups or terrorist organizations. The DOGE team discovered, among other things, that payment approval officers at Treasury were instructed always to approve payments, even to known fraudulent or terrorist groups. They literally never denied a payment in their entire career, not even once, Musk wrote in this tweet, okay? So on one hand, I understand the Treasury Department basically just cutting checks, right? Because they're not the ones deciding how stuff is spent. They're just basically deciding who they're sending it to. But the idea that they couldn't simply report, hey, there's this terrorist group or this criminal group that is getting checks. Maybe we want to second guess this and look into it, maybe have a little pause. The fact they were told to always approve everything really makes you wonder what the heck is going on, right? This has to shoot back up the chain to whoever's in charge of making these decisions so they can be at least informed if in fact they're not the ones being criminally compliant with issuing these checks in the first place. And this is the type of waste and spending we are uncovering with the Trump administration via the DOGE department. And that's something else Chamath actually said, right? Each of these little investigative units has their own engineer where they can go back and look at where all the money is being spent, where it's being sent from, sent to, etc. So they can find all of this waste that we know is happening, right? And it blows my mind that this much waste is actually going on behind the scenes. So yes, trillions of dollars could be saved just by this one act, not to mention the implications this will have on shrinking federal government. But of course, the Democrats, they aren't going to learn any of the lessons of this.
In this round, so I'm going to, I have a show of hands. How many of you believe that racism and misogyny played a role in Vice President Harris's defeat? Okay. So that's good. You all passed.
We are going to fight it legislatively. We are going to fight it in the courts. And we're going to fight it in the streets.
So those two short clips, the first one being from the DNC chair forum, right? People wanting to actually be the head of the DNC party. And yes, they're still going after racism and sexism and misogyny, right? That is their main talking point. They haven't learned that the American people have moved well past that and we no longer care, right? And the second clip, Hakeem Jeffries, right? The House Minority Leader. He's coming out and saying, hey, we're going to fight Donald Trump's agenda, right? Legislatively, in the courts, and of course, in the streets. That sounds a little insurrection-y to me, Hakeem. Okay, but what else do you expect from the left? Okay. But yeah, what they're forgetting is Donald Trump has a mandate. Donald Trump won the popular vote. So by saying you're going to fight his agenda, you're basically saying you're going to fight against the American people. So go ahead and do that if you think it's a winning strategy, but it won't be. So thankfully, they aren't learning any lessons, and I hope this keeps up, right? As is pointed out here by Jake Tapper.
The Democratic National Committee picked a new head over the weekend on the matter of the Democratic Party. We saw some stark numbers this week about how the American people view the Democratic Party. You see there, this is a Quinnipiac poll, 57% of the American people have an unfavorable view of the Democratic Party, only 31% favorable. This is the worst number for the Democratic Party since Quinnipiac University began asking the question, and it's not an outlier. A recent CNN poll found a 33-year low favorable rating with the Democratic Party. Why is your party so staggeringly unpopular with the public?
Jake, you know me, I'm a Virginian. I know one state well and not so well the other 49. In Virginia, we've gone from one of the most ruby red states in the country to now having put electoral votes behind Democrats 5 elections in a row. I just won my reelection by a sizable margin against Donald Trump's hand-picked Republican opponent. And I'll tell you how we've done it. We focus on the economy. This is what we do in Virginia, and I think sometimes national Democrats don't. We focus on competent government and running the economy in a great way that focuses on innovation and advancing. We have what we call a make, build, grow agenda. While the Republicans are talking about cutting taxes and cutting regulation, and most people understand that tax cutting is just for the wealthiest, on the Democratic side in Virginia, and I think we can do this nationally, we talk about make, build, grow. We want to make it here, we want to build it here, and in ag and forestry, we want to grow it here.
So this really warms my heart. Nearly 2/3 of America disapproves of the Democrat Party because they know how crappy of a job they did, okay? And yes, to Tim Kaine's point, I think the Democrats actually did run on the economy, but then they realized that, oh, it wasn't working because Bidenomics had basically tainted the whole idea of Democrats being in charge of anything financial in this nation, all right? They were so bad at it that people ran back into the arms of Donald Trump and the Republicans. So yes, the economy remains the main issue for Americans when voting, but that's not the only thing they were against in the last election.
I think I'm alone in this group. I think I'm kind of afraid to be alone in this group. I surveyed these people. I focus grouped them. And they are really, really tired of being accused of either racism or sexism because they voted for Donald Trump. And it's one of the reasons why so many of them did. I sat on this stage with you and got chewed out when I suggested there's a better language to reach out to voters, that the Harris campaign is missing what they're looking for. And I say the same thing here. Americans just want to be Americans, not hyphenated Americans, not female Americans, black Americans, Jewish Americans. They just want to be Americans.
How do you think it makes people feel, black people, women, any person who has immutable characteristics about themselves, to be told every time that something happens that because they exist in a particular role, it is their fault? How does it make them feel?
How does it make people feel when they're told that they're a racist?
No. I mean, answer. But answer my question.
I am, because these are predetermined considerations.
But no.
You were going
you're
to
assuming. You're telling me I'm.
Do you
calling
want an
you,
answer?
Well, you're not answering my question. You're telling me.
Yes, I'm trying to.
You were
No, you're
telling
not.
me
Actually,
that.
Your response is in bad faith. I mean, what she is saying is something you're not responding to because it doesn't address why Donald Trump immediately went to DEI as an explanation without any evidence whatsoever for what looks to be an inexcusable and certainly a very devastating and tragic plane and helicopter crash a couple of days ago. And instead, you pivot to talking about how terrible it is that some people who voted for Donald Trump are being called racist and sexist. You're refusing to grapple with the central tension.
My understanding.
Frank, it's an option.
Hold on.
Frank, it's an
because
option
my
for
understanding
Trump.
is of the voter.
Frank,
that is what I do.
It is an option.
What about
for
the immorality?
That, of course, was a big driving factor as well. People were sick and tired of not being able to criticize the Democrats, the left, simply because they happen to be black or Hispanic or Jewish or whatever, right? Criticism is criticism, right? Never mind the immutable characteristics they may or may not have. If you don't like the way the country is going, you don't like the people who are in charge, then you don't like them because of the decisions they're making, not because of the color of their skin, all right? But of course, the CNN panel doesn't want to admit it. And as far as all this DEI stuff and the Rex go, as we found out that yes, the FAA was severely understaffed because they refused to hire white people specifically, right? How insane is that, right? They're only going to hire people in wheelchairs with mental disorders. They would rather leave positions vacant than hire a horrible white man, okay? That, of course, is how DEI actually helped to cause these accidents. But remember, the constant theme here is that the Democrats are not learning from their mistakes, and I hope they keep making them over and over and over again because I want to win elections easily. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and stay safe out there, people, because they're coming after you.